Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? The NFL has released its schedule, its entire schedule, and we now know not only who the Saints will be playing, but also when and where they will be playing. So I love the schedule release. I think it matters for all the reasons we've talked about for some time now. Let's run through it. I don't want to bore you overwhelmingly with all this, but I do have some high points that I want to hit, and we'll run through game to game. Just as a reminder, Dennis Allen was on the Rich Eisen show, and Rich asked him, hey, what's the first thing you look for when the schedule is released? Here's what Dennis Allen said. Again, this was just a few hours prior to the release.
Who do we open with, and where are we opening? And then what are the potential weather games that you're looking at late in the season that you'll have to deal with some of the cold weather deal like we did in Cleveland this past season?
Okay, so who do you open with, and what are the weather games? The head coach is telling you that's what matters. So when we talk about those things, that's not just plucked from the air. Even the head coach cares. The New Orleans Saints, we now know. Can you give me some NFL music? I'm in the NFL music type mood. So if you can give me some NFL music, that would be great. The New Orleans Saints are going to open up at home noon on CBS against the Tennessee Titans. So we could very well see former Kentucky quarterback Will Levis make his debut. Probably not. That's probably still a Ryan Tannehill outing there, but we could see Levis week one, rookie quarterback potentially there, and that is a home game for the New Orleans Saints, so they open up at home. Yeah. That's how you know it's real, Muse? When you hear the fabled sounds of John Facenda. Appropriate, because it's not too long after week one that the Saints are headed to Lambeau Field. So we'll get there. A week two, Monday Night Football at Carolina. Bryce Young's home opener, second game of his career. If you're going to catch Bryce Young, you'd rather catch him early, so the Saints do, in fact, get him there. You heard Dennis Allen talk about the weather games. Well, there's really, let's call it two possible weather games. The game at Green Bay and the game at New England. Well, Green Bay, you got week three. It is going to be very nice at Lambeau Field, September the 24th. I'd rather play at Lambeau September 24th than December 24th. Now, the one drawback there, the game against Carolina is Monday night. So you're on the road on a Monday night, and then you have a short week on the road at Green Bay. But again, Jordan Love making just his third start of the season. You'd rather get him early than late. You're home against Tampa. They stink. Then you go to at New England. So you get New England. You'll be up in Massachusetts, October the 8th. Again, that'll be far more appealing than playing them December the 8th up there in Boston. And who knows what that quarterback situation is going to look like there. You do go back-to-back because October the 15th, you go to Houston. That could be C.J. Stroud. You could have another rookie quarterback on the slate right there. Then a short week, but you're at home to take on Jacksonville. There are two Thursday games for New Orleans, but you'd rather have a Thursday game at home, and then travel around a short week game matters as well. So, yes, it does stink that you're at Houston and then have the short week because you're on the road, then home. All right, down a little bit, please. Okay, you can just kill it all together. It got me in the mood. You can just kill it all together. Okay. I was in the mood for the music, and now I'm not in the mood for the music. It's all good. So you have the short week, week 6. You'll go at Houston, and then you're home against Jacksonville. But Houston to New Orleans is about a 30-minute flight. That's not overwhelming to have that kind of travel before the short week, and the short week game is at home. And then you have a long week because you play Thursday before you go on the road to the Indianapolis Colts. That could be Anthony Richardson. I mean, you have the top 4 quarterbacks drafted in this year's draft on your schedule this year. So you could very well play October the 29th in Indy against Anthony Richardson. Now, that maybe that's Gardner Minshew, but we'll have to wait and see. But that could be another game against a rookie on the road. Home against Chicago, they stink. You're at Minnesota going into your bye. I love the fact where the bye comes in week 11. Remember, a year ago, Normally, when you play internationally, the NFL wants to give you the week off after your international game. Well, the Saints' international game in London against the Vikings was so early, the Saints chose not to have their bye in week 5. So they pushed it later in the season, but they had an international game, then played a week after. I love where the bye falls for the Saints in week 11, which means then you get a week off before you go to Atlanta, your first of 2 games with the Dirty Birds. Then the part of the schedule I love, you're late in the season. A lot of times guys are beat up at this point. Travel stinks, but you basically get the week off for week 11. Then you go to Atlanta, which isn't a terrible trip. And then you go back-to-back home games, December 3rd, 10th, 17th. Detroit, Carolina, and the Giants. Detroit was almost a playoff team a year ago. The Giants were a playoff team a year ago. And you get those 2 games at home. With Carolina sandwiched in the middle. I love that stretch of the schedule considering. Now, the worst thing of the schedule, if I had to look at the schedule, okay, what's the worst part of this schedule? It's weeks 16 and 17. Back-to-back road games at the Rams, at the at the Rams, at the Bucks, and you're going coast to coast. And part of the reason this stinks is the game against the Rams is the other Thursday night game. So, you're home against the Giants on Sunday, then short week to the West Coast to play the Rams. Traveling for Thursday night football sucks to begin with because you got to travel on a short week, and have to go across the country makes it even worse. Then, after playing on the West Coast, your next game is on the East Coast because you got to go across the country to take on Tampa. Back-to-back road games. For a team that very well could be fighting for the division, for a playoff berth, maybe a wild card, whatever it may be that the Saints are playing for right there, to have that week 16 and 17 kind of sucks. But then you do get the Falcons at home week 18. So for the New Orleans Saints, we know this. We know that from a percentage, win-loss percentage of your opponents from a year ago, it's the second easiest schedule in the NFL. You draw the AFC South, which was very bad last year. You play the teams in your division, which was really the worst division in football a year ago. So you get 6 games against the NFC South. You draw the NFC North with no Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. The schedule for the New Orleans Saints works out great. I don't know that you could put pen to paper and come up with anything better than this. There are far more advantageous situations for the Saints on this schedule than disadvantage. Like we talked about a year ago, which sucked. Having to go to London, no bye after, cold weather games late in the season against Cleveland and Philly. You won both of those, but still. What you don't know is what may happen year to year in the NFL. Last year, we all thought the AFC West was going to be awesome. Mahomes, Herbert, Rivers, Russell Wilson in Denver, Carr in Las Vegas, and that division ended up stinking. Russell Wilson in Denver was a disaster. Obviously, Carr is no longer in Las Vegas. Mahomes in Kansas City won the division, but we understand that wasn't what we thought it was going to be. We all thought the NFC East wasn't going to be very good. Well, the Giants made the playoffs. The Cowboys made the playoffs. The Eagles were the best team in the NFC, and Washington was super respectable. So if a year ago you're looking at your schedule and say, hey, yeah, we get to play the NFC East. That's great. They stink. Well, not exactly how it played out, right? So maybe things shift this year. Maybe the AFC South has an awesome year. I don't know. But what I do know is you're going to get to play the likes of Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young twice and C.J. Stroud. There's a lot. Potentially Will Levis week 1, depending on if they go Tannehill Levis. We'll see. There's a lot to like on this schedule if you're the New Orleans Saints. I don't still love the Saints roster. I don't know that this is a team that you're looking at projecting saying that's a contender in the NFC. But in a bad division with an experienced quarterback and a manageable schedule, you have to like the prospects for the Saints this year. Now, the flip side of it, too, is, look, if you're a team in the AFC South or if you're a team in the NFC North, you're going, great, we get to play the NFC South because that was the worst division in football last year. And they're not wrong. You could look at the Saints and go, they were 7-10 last year. You're right. Saints stunk last year. And maybe that's a benefit for all those. But how different will the Saints be last year to this year is a big question for the entire NFC because that's a team that likely should overtake Tampa Bay, win the division this year, be a playoff team. What can they do with it? We now know what the path is for the New Orleans Saints. How do they traverse that path? We'll start to find out come September. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.